Hello everyone and welcome to Game 3 in a series between Darkforce and Grubby, or sorry, Game 4 between Darkforce and Grubby. Grubby currently taking a 2-1 lead in this matchup, and we'll see how this game unravels. Grubby unable to get the win on Scrap Station, Darkforce pushing off two bases, able to get off a lot of damage from those two bases, and able to train up a surprisingly efficient number of Hydralisks. Grubby did get some damage with that Void Ray, but really not enough to consider the cost. You gotta factor in the cost of that Stargate, since he only got one Void Ray, and that one Void Ray is also expensive in and of itself. That Void Ray never really got 600 to 800 damage like he wanted to. Pylon now being warped in down over here by Grubby, so Pylon will allow perhaps for a Forge expansion, and now 6 pool for Salvation, and having a little bit of a smiley face there as Darkforce obviously not going for a 6 pool, and an Overlord now making the trek across. It will be a north spawn here on Shakuras Plateau, not a close, not full cross spawns, but not close by any means. Probe now coming inside. We'll take a look, see that the extractor is now being placed down. The probe just going to continue to wander around. He needs to make sure that the spawning pool down is placed down after, instead of a hatchery first, in order to respond accordingly. Now, gateways, a Forge expansion may be coming in, or maybe coming underway. Yes, Forge first before a Nexus, so I'm a little bit curious as to why he decided to go for a Forge first instead of a Nexus first this time around. If you know that your opponent is going for an Extractor and a spawning pool, you know that the Zerglings are going to be perhaps a little bit delayed, but I think he just wants that earlier cannon more than anything else. It looks like a cannon will be warped in just a moment. Grubby now pulling away with that probe, getting some damage onto the drone. And now all we have to do is wait for 1 or 2 photon cannons, as the spawning pool is not yet done. 2 probes now coming in, getting some damage onto one of those, the drone down to 4 hit points, and down it goes. 2 probes double teaming that drone, and yeah, Daisy the drone has been destroyed. So Peppy the probe winning out on that fight. Unfortunately, the probe actually won the battle. I can't even find it anymore, but I'm sure you guys don't really care. A photon cannon is warping in. We should be getting in a gateway as well, and then that will allow for a decent wall in, but this is kind of curious. Oh yeah, it will have just enough room, so he needs to, I believe, get a cybernetics core here, and this will be a complete wall in. Once he gets that cybernetics core up and running, Zerglings are on the move. 3 Zerglings chasing after that probe. That probe does have 5 minerals in tow, and ready to just run back home and return them back to the Nexus, as the probes are deciding not to give chase towards that, or the Zerglings not deciding not to give chase towards that probe, and the probe will be able to just return home with little to no issue. The Overlord of Darkforce does see the natural expansion already being placed down. It will be mining up in just a moment as well. 1 Zergling on the low ground, 1 probe up on that high ground, as the Overlord took a little bit of damage from that photon cannon, some base defense there, and now there's that cybernetics core that we were mentioning. Probe should be transferred over in just a second, and now Grubby will be able to mine off of 16 mineral patches. Meanwhile, Darkforce a little bit delayed here, so he decided to go off of 1 base, and then instead using spawn larva, perhaps we'll be able to get even more and more drones. You can see that he's currently training up 3 drones, 1 drone now, as a new round of spawn larva should be coming in. A probe easily taken down by the queen here, and now a creep highway may start to be spread. You can see Grubby currently just chrono boosting, trying to get a stronger economy, as this game is turning into a macro game. No one really pressing out with any large armies at all. In fact, the only 2 attacking units on the field are 4 sets of Zerglings, or 2 sets of Zerglings. 1 Zergling on the ramp, 1 activating the Zelnaga Watchtower, and then 2 all the way back home, just in case a probe tries to sneak by. 29 probes, 27 drones, but we should be getting a very strong chrono boost, or sorry, not a chrono boost, a very strong spawn larva coming in from Darkforce, as long as he remembers. For some reason, Darkforce not a spawning larva there. He should be spawning larva here. He remembered at the main base, but still not quite yet at the natural expansion. Another base has been placed down here as well, so Darkforce quickly going into 3 bases on Shakuras Plateau. We'll see whether Grubby, with his 2 base, perhaps Colossus Sentry, will be able to fend that attack off. Level 1 weapons upgrade coming in as well, and really not that many production buildings coming in from Grubby. No production buildings at all besides this one gateway. Finally getting a spawn larva off here, Darkforce should be able to get a very strong economy going. You can see, 17 probes here mining away. Meanwhile, there are 17 probes or 16 probes here mining away as well. Trying not to account for the gas, as the gas does skew up the mineral mining, obviously. So we should be seeing perhaps a very strong macro camp, as 6 drones now being trained up as well. Another queen being added, so it is going to be 3 queens at 3 hatcheries, being able to just produce lots and lots of units. An Overlord now looking to suicide its way in. It looks like a Stalker should be able to come over and shoot it out of the sky, as Grubby now still running off of 1 gateway with 3 sentries, and now finally going into additional gateways and a robotics facility. Sentries now coming in. It looks like the Overlord will get some information, just a couple of one of those gateways. I do not, maybe 2 at most, but he will not see the robotics core or robotics facility at all. 3 base Zerg play, 57 drones, and continuing to just power drone more and more. And I think as long as Darkforce doesn't overproduce units at this time, he should be very strong moving into the mid to late game. He has such a strong economic advantage, being able to mine off of 1 extra set of mineral patch, or 1 set of mineral patches, 8 mineral patches here. You can see a very, very large number of drones, currently sitting at 18 drones here, compared to the, I believe, 19 drones here. And finally, mining off of 2 gas in the main base, not too many drones. Burrow now being researched. Still more gateways are being added for Grubby. A Cybernetics core being built again over here. So this is the backup Cybernetics core, which means that this one Cybernetics core will get taken down. And the Photon Cannon already getting some damage onto that one Cybernetics core. It looks like the sentries will decide to finish it off. Down it goes. Wow, robotics facility training up Immortals, and both sides just really macroing it up. Sim StarCraft, as I like to say at this point in the game. Sentries may get some damage onto those Zerglings. You can see those Zerglings just trying to run away. They will be able to run away fairly quickly, or fairly easily, as those Zerglings are just moving so fast around the map. Another Zergling here at the 8 o'clock expansion location, as the front door is now completely wide open and the Zerglings running straight into the base. Zealots are now trying to warp in, but the Immortal really has a lot of work to do, as the Zerglings now run into the main base here. You can see more gateway units need to come off, and now out comes an army of Stalkers and Sentries. It looks like 1 Spinecrawler will get taken down very easily. A second Spinecrawler may not get taken down. No, not taken down. At the cost of a Sentry, and I think the Sentry is slightly cheaper than a Spinecrawler in total resources if you account for the cost of the drone. So Darkforce actually winning out in that engagement there. Or sorry, Spinecrawler is slightly more, 25 minerals more, I think. And last Zergling, down it goes. Zealot down to 5 hit points. Zealots do have level 1 weapons upgrade against, I do not believe, any Carapace upgrades coming in from the Zerg at all. So those Zealots were able to 2-shot those units, as Grubby clearing out pylons and now making another move, perhaps to perhaps try to seal up and disrupt Darkforce's strategy. And oh, there you go. So many roaches completely destroyed. Roaches now coming in along the far side as well. So all of these roaches that are corralled into here need to get destroyed. Otherwise, those force fields are really not worth it. As more and more units are getting taken down, you can see more roaches are being added. So a little bit of a heavier loss so far by the Zerg now, as Darkforce is very, is just a little bit behind. He does have a stronger economy. That is the reason why he is able to produce a lot more units. Production-wise, 10 more Hydralisks now being trained. So those Hydralisks going to be able to do a very good job. And Hydralisks are, I believe, one of the best DPS units coming in for the Zerg. They attack very quickly, faster than a Marine. Only slightly faster than a Marine, but hey, every little bit helps. They have a range of 6, and I think the only thing that truly beats them in terms of cost and DPS is a Zergling. Stalkers, Sentries, Immortal, once again trying to push out 1 Hydralisk, easily getting picked apart there as more reinforcements being added. We are now running off of 4 base, so Darkforce 4 base, Grubby now going into 3. So that is going to definitely help Grubby make sure that he doesn't fall too far behind. 60 probes versus 68 drones. Army, slight advantage in terms of minerals for Darkforce. Meanwhile, Grubby, a slight advantage in terms of gas. Nothing to write home about, as both sides have very, very strong armies. The Stalkers and the Zerg units both have one upgrade on the weapons so far. No armor upgrades, and now going into the claw attack upgrades as well, so the Zerglings will be able to deal more damage, as photon cannons and assimilators also being laid down as well. The Stalkers may be able to blink up. Yes, they are going to be able to blink up here, and now blink up in order to shut down this hatchery over here. I believe the observer does spot, yes, it does spot the creep, as the main battle is now ensuing over here. There is one overseer in the air. It does have corruption, and now going to shut down all of these pylons, and these units really have nowhere to engage or go, as the Queen now destroyed. So the Queen getting easily taken down. The Stalkers are now need to go after those drones, as the battle ensuing here. Force fields splitting many of this army here, and now in comes a Colossus. Colossus out of position, perhaps gonna not make it up to the high ground at all. Darkforce is just trying to pick apart this army and doing a decent job so far, as the units are now running through the mineral line. Roaches and Zerglings, both sides battling it out. Hydralisk continuing to push in. The photon cannon is destroyed. Stalkers, Immortals continuing to just see how much damage they can do. And I think Grubby is in a little bit of a panic over here, as the Stalkers are now going after Hydralisk. This hatchery has been destroyed already, and now more damage can still be dealt. Hydralisk after Hydralisk is falling, and now it looks as though ATN Darkforce is now running off of 2 bases compared to Grubby's 2 bases right now. But a lot of probes being forced to back off here, and now down goes that Overseer. Not quite sure why those Stalkers all blinked away. One final Roach now destroyed. Taking a look at the army, a very, very large advantage now, a large advantage by Darkforce in both terms of minerals and gas, as we can now see the Roaches finishing off a pylon, and now more damage still to be had. The Roaches perhaps going to shut down this expansion by Grubby, and now Grubby running off of 1 base, as the main base doesn't have any probes mining right now. Colossus has joined the battle, but still having a very difficult time trying to fight off so many of these units. Hydralisk continuing to pick apart more of these, but this game is still too close to call, as now Grubby takes the lead with that offensive blinking and getting a lot of damage in. We can see now 64 harvesters compared to 39, and Grubby needs to press with his army advantage, otherwise he's going to be falling behind rather quickly. Roaches are making their way out. There are a decent number of spine crawlers here. Another hatchery has been placed down, so one more hatchery by Darkforce, as one Colossus here just continuing to move out and now escort the rest of Grubby's units. Income, we should probably see a large difference, yes. Double the amount of minerals and almost triple the amount of gas by Darkforce as so far. So Darkforce may be able to continue this and then even up the series at 2 games apiece, which would force this into a game 5. Grubby is just currently sitting over here, hanging around by the Zonaga Watchtower, waiting, as a lot of Roaches are in the center of the field. Level 2 weapons upgrade, level 1 armor upgrades, Queens, Corruptors, and Broodlords now being added to the army. So Broodlords able to spawn those Broodlings and get a lot of damage in, but out moves an army of Stalkers. The Stalkers were trying to clean up those creep tumors, unable to do so, as a Broodlord now making its way out into the field. We are perhaps getting a drop. Yes, it looks like a drop. 3 Zealots dropping straight into this mineral line here. A Queen already in position, a Spine Crawler being added, but that Spine Crawler will not be able to help out these poor units, as now Stalkers are blinking up onto the high ground. So a little bit of a cute blink play there, as now Grubby gonna drop in. Zealots get some damage. The Zealots are only level 1 weapon upgraded, so they are not going to be able to 2-shot any of those drones, especially as those drones do have level 1 armor. So Zealots would need level 3 weapons attack in order to 2-shot any of those units. Queen now coming in over here. Zealots trying to battle it out, take down this Queen, as a main fight happening in the center portion of the map. Broodlords, Broodlings now being spawned. It looks like the Broodlord, or the the Broodlings able to drop some units, and now the Roaches are trying to chase after this. Colossi are backing off, but the Roaches are able to continue to pick it apart as both sides are now going to perhaps try to do a little bit of an exchange. Broodlords are getting in position. Broodlings dropping down, raining a lot of damage from those Broodlords. The Stalkers need to be escorted, and this is going to be very, very problematic as the Roaches going after the Stalkers as the Broodlords are getting cleaned up very easily. The Roaches now trying to finish off the rest of this air army, but or this ground army that's able to attack air, but I think they're not going to be able to do so, especially with the help of those Colossi getting in so much splash damage. And now the army of Darkforce is once again backing off, and I just realized I don't know if this is a best of 5 or a best of 7. Grubby is still pulling away. We'll see what's going to be happening here as the Stalkers just continuing to wander around, getting into the proper position. The Stalkers now of Grubby now taking more map control. The problem right now, though, is still that Grubby is running off of 2 bases only and 54 probes, so he does not have the economy to make this game and to force this game to go long. And now that Darkforce has a larger army, he perhaps will be able to push in and break the siege line. 2 bases here. I guess 2.5 if you count this base as well, compared to the 3 bases of Darkforce. But Darkforce doesn't have that many additional drones to cover all 4 bases. Templar Archives about to be completed. Psystorm will be added to this group, as more Stalkers are now being added. 7 Stalkers quickly warping into the field, and now go ahead and engage, blinking down onto the low ground. Still waiting for something to happen, as Darkforce doesn't want to commit to an attack, and it doesn't look like Grubby wants to just try to beat his head up or apart his own army by attacking into a nice fortified position. 4,000, 2,000 versus 5,000, 2,000, as Grubby now adding High Templars has a stronger gas army than Darkforce. Production, we still have the Pathogen Glands, level 2 melee attacks, and level 2 armor attacks, and is that the Carapace? So the Zerg Carapace as well for those Broodlords, so they have additional armor. Stalkers looking to deal some damage. Perhaps a hatchery should be placed down here, or here another expansion at this point could not hurt, as the Broodlords are in the center portion of the map, and it looks like the Zergans are going to be able to finish off what I believe was a Stalker over here. And now the Broodlords looking to get in position. Level 1 weapons upgrade on those Broodlords, 22 damage, dropping those Broodlings. Broodlings, I believe, have 2-0 or will have 2-2 upgrades in just a moment, making them even more difficult to try and deal with. Maximum food count by Darkforce. Darkforce is, I guess, waiting for an open invitation to engage. Roaches are now battling it out. Broodlords and Overseers coming in. Psystorm across so many Roaches. The Roaches just absolutely destroyed. Another round of Psystorm could be coming in as well. But the Broodlords trying to rain in as much damage as possible. The Roaches are dangerously low. Corruptors are also engaging as well. Both sides continuing to push in as the Broodlings are just tongue-tying a lot of those Stalkers from really engaging against those Roaches. And now Corruptors are going to get destroyed, as those Corruptors should perhaps try to turn around and figure out a better position for themselves, and perhaps wait for additional reinforcements. We can see that there are a lot of Broodlords right now in the middle of the field. 6 Broodlords with 2 more hatching and coming underway. You can see him trying to use that high ground ability. And yes, it looks like Darkforce will be able to get a lot of damage in. The Broodlord Cocoon does have a lot of armor, and oh, I believe, yes, that Corruptor was just simply destroyed. It was canceled just in time, and now the Roaches looking like they wanted to burrow in order to regenerate some more hit points. Zerglings now coming down over here, going to finish off this one pylon here, as the Grubby's attack force is slowly regenerating hit points, and now an Archon being merged in the middle portion of the field, and perhaps to try to deal with all of those Roaches. Broodlords and Roaches, both sides battling it out. The poor Archon getting destroyed before anything can really happen. And there's the GG. So Grubby, after taking the first 2 games, losing the next 2 games to Darkforce and forcing a Game 5. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.